May I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Culver?
Here.
Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Weatherholt?
Here.
Ms. Brown?
Yes. We have a quorum, so we can proceed with the meeting. I would like to ask the secretary for the minutes.
They're in your packet.
They're in your packet. If there are any questions or corrections. I make a motion. I would like to have a motion to accept the
So move.
second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passed. There is a yellow form over there. If you are in the audience and you want to speak before the board, please make that form out and give it to the secretary, which is here, and so that you can be called upon for whatever case that would be you would want it to talk about. And do we want to put a time limit on the people that speak, board?
Not a lot of people. We're okay.
Okay, we are
Not a lot of
okay.
people.
Then we won't put a time limit on
If
you.
to be late, we can do that.
Okay. Can we hear from the appellant, please?
No, let's get this introduction to city staff.
I'm sorry.
Introduction to city staff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed something here. Would the city staff please stand and tell us your name and your position with the city, please?
Leonard Court, Chief Building Official.
Kim Flaherty, Project Manager.
John Cecil, Rehabilitation Inspector.
David Jarvis, Physical Planner, Historic Preservation Officer.
Okay. Anyone else?
Robert Jagger, City Attorney.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Do you want the staff sworn in, Robert?
Yes.
Yeah, let's get the staff sworn in, please.
Okay. I don't see that on
Yeah,
here.
no, that's not. Sure.
Oh, okay.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony and evidence you give is truth, nothing but the truth? Okay. Everybody sworn.
Okay. Everyone is sworn in, so we'll proceed. Now we can go to...
Now you read the case, the first case.
Let me read the first case. Okay. Okay. Case A, BP 2019-0010-132, Dr. Mary Methuen, McLeod Methuen Boulevard, notice, appeal of a notice. A request by James A. Stowers, Esquire, legal counsel of Rena Real Estate, LLC, property owner, to appeal the City of Daytona Chief Building Official's determination to condemn the structure located at 132 Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard due to unsafe condition and the determination that the building must be demolished. Okay, proceed, please.
If I may proceed with the staff presentation of the proposed evidence. We would call Mr. John Cecil to the case.
John Cecil, Rehabilitation Inspector.
Mr. Cecil, could you tell the board what your duties are as a rehabilitation inspector?
I identify the properties that are abandoned, neglected, or in disrepair, and make my findings and report back to the building official.
And how long have you held that position in the city?
I've held that position for the city for approximately 1 year now.
You're familiar with the property which is the subject of the hearing this morning at 132 Dr. Mary Bethune Boulevard?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with that property?
There's been complaints on the property, varying from PD to citizens calling in on the property to homeless or vagrants near the property.
When were you first made aware of any problems on the property?
That has actually been, I'm going to say, back in February It was middle of February when I went to the actual property and started looking at the property.
February this year?
Of this year. But the property, I know the history of the property. I've been by the property numerous times. It's been dating back probably 4 or 5 years.
How many times have you been to the property?
I've been to the property, I'm going to say at least 24 times. I try to go by the property every day, but as far as doing an inspection on the site, it's approximately 24. Not actually, sometimes on the site. It's been secured lately, so I have not been there.
All right. What are the purposes of your inspection? Why do you do it?
To see if the building is safe, if it's neglected, abandoned, any transients that are staying in the property, just making sure that the structure is safe and sound to be there.
When was the last time you were out at the site?
It was this morning.
All right. Have you taken some photos of the site at your various site inspections?
Yes, I have.
All right. Have you brought those with you to show to the board?
Yes, I did.
All right. We've got those keyed up on the monitor.
Yes.
All right. When were these photos taken?
As you can see, this is a picture of the photo that was of the condemnation, and I believe it was 226, 225.
Were all the photos taken at the same time?
Yes, they were.
They're all on 225, is that correct?
Correct.
So this is showing the posting on the property, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. What next you have?
This is a street view of the structure, which I do take a street view of each structure when I go to the property.
All right. What is of significance here with regard to structural issues?
When I'm looking at the structure, when I go by and you see the street view, I would take a look at it. And then I would notice, as you can see on the right side of the property, you can see there's a little bit of sag in the property, or on the property on the second story there. So that would draw your attention to the property as you're going by.
Why is that significant? What does the sag indicate?
The sag indicates that it's a possible that something is failed that is supporting that. So that's why I would look at the property.
All right. Anything else of significance with regard to structural issues that you can point out in this photo?
Some of it you can look, even in the railing, you can tell as the sag of the property on the lower part. So there's, I'm just, it doesn't work too much. I'm just looking at the sag on everything on the right-hand side of the property is what draw me there, and take a look at the property at this photo.
Let's move on through the photos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what have we got here?
Okay, as you can see on the photo here, this is another street view that on the part that's kicked out there on the front on the left-hand side of the property, you can see that there is, sorry, but my laser pointer's not working too well. The top there connection, they put where it was separating away from the building, that there is tape along the side there from the kick out to the main structure. And then at the top you can see also where they have put in some patchwork there to cover up the separation.
All right, is there anything about that, the work that's been done, which would cure the structural issues?
No, that's just to cover up to show that there's no separation from the structure.
And what do you mean by separation? What's happening?
It's pulling away. That kick out is pulling away. It's separating from the main structure. So that's caused by the sag in the front that possibly the foundation is given away, and then the separation is pulling that structure away from it.
What's the worst case scenario here if nothing is done to remedy this?
That would actually fall and collapse and possibly go into the street.
All right. Do you have any other photos?
Yes.
What have we got here?
Okay, this is a picture of the front porch as it's going up on the property to post the property. That's just showing when I walk up on the structure.
All right. Now, I see some columns. Now, are these
Yes.
the columns that are under the sag that we saw in the previous photo?
Yes, the ones, the furthest three away are the ones, the furthest one this way is on this other side, but the other three is the other side, yes.
And there appears to be some holes, if you will, around the columns. Is that accurate?
Yes, because the columns have sunk in.
So So the column
some
has
through.
literally gone through the floor.
That's correct.
And does that explain why the building is leaning?
Yes.
All right, next photo, please. Do we have a close-up of that scenario?
Yes. And you can see it, the column has sunk into the floor and has collapsed.
All right, what is underneath that column, you know?
Underneath that column, I believe there was a foundation, or could be concrete that it was actually sitting on that actually possibly could have sunk in. We have an engineer's report, but I cannot testify to that.
But you can testify as to what you saw and what you
Oh.
saw in these photos, that the entire structure
That's correct.
is sinking. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
What's the next photo?
And also, here's another photo of it, the other one, to where it's actually sinking in and it's actually kicking out the railing on the front also. So it just keeps sinking out and it's just forcing everything out.
So this is a buckling, would that be correct?
Correct.
All right, what else do you have?
There's a close-up picture of it, the previous picture.
Now, when you were out there today, was anything different about what's shown in these photos in terms of the structural foundation?
No, everything is the same right there as it appears.
So this merely accurately depicts what is the situation today, is that?
That's correct.
With regard to the columns and the foundation?
Yes.
Next one. What is shown here?
This is showing that there is separation. As you can see on the photo, you can see like light that's coming through from the one side there. It's pulling away from the structure.
And what is above there? I might refer to that as a dormer. Would that be correct? Yeah.
Yes, I believe so. I've never been in the structure, but I'm saying
How big is that dormer, I'll call it?
if I taken a guess, it would be 10 by 15, 10 by 10 possibly.
And so
A
this
room.
photo you're saying shows separation of the dormer from the building.
Yes.
Next photo.
That's another picture showing the buckling effect, the kick out of the railing, of the sagging of the post.
All right, next photo.
And here, and this is a photo right underneath of that part that's pulling away is the roof, and it shows the damage of the roof, and then there's water that actually runs down, and so it's deteriorating at that point, and you can see it's collapsing.
We're looking
And-
at some wood issues here. Could you tell
Yeah.
us what that is?
And also, right underneath the beam there, you can see the beam underneath the skinny post where it's buckling to where they have that, where the pressure of up top is coming down and the posts have sunk, that there's a lot of pressure on that beam, and that beam is actually caving in. It's breaking.
Is this a crack that we can see in the photo of the beam?
Yes.
What is this photo depict?
This photo shows the connection there. It's just showing that there is separation. There's a little bit of movement of that structure. Here's another photo. As you can see, it's showing it's pulling away, and the siding that was on the structure is buckling because it is actually pulling away from the building. So that's actually pulling the siding off of the building as it leans forward.
And when you say siding, you mean these wood planks?
Yes.
that are lateral? All right, next
Oh,
photo,
thank you.
please. Here we have
Okay.
the tar paper on the roof again.
Yes, and that there's, they had put that up there. It looks like it was covering the separation. As you can see down below there is separation, and then actually below that, it looks like the tape or that flex tape or whatever you can buy. You stuck it up there to cover up the separation.
All right, now this photo shows the gap between the dormer and the main structure.
That's correct.
How wide is that gap? Could you tell for us?
I've never been up on the structure, but my estimate would be 6 to 8 inches.
All right, next photo, please.
This is another view, just showing the actual from that side of the angle of the actual separation from the building and the sinking of the pilings. Can we go to the next section, please? No, these photos were taken today. This shows wood rot on the east side of the building, where we was at the location today.
All right, and tell me, so this is down at the foundational level, at the lower part of the building, or?
Yes, it is. It's right below the first story. That's the first story window, so that's right below the first story.
So that's below the window
Yes,
on the ground level.
yes. And here's another one, another photo, different window.
Now, what sort of rot is this? Can you tell whether it's termite or water damage?
It looks like it is water damage that it's been getting after so much time. It's just water damage just eating away at the building.
Does that expose the interior of the building to
Yes.
the elements?
Yes, it does.
So that-
And I believe,
Is that above the floor level then?
yes.
And what is the significance of the structure being open to the elements like that?
Open to the elements, you're going to get your rain, your wind, and you're going to get inside damage once the water, intrudes into the building.
What are the likely effects of the intrusion of the water?
It would rot on the inside. Your drywall on the inside or plaster on the inside would be damaged. Then there'd be a lot of repair from that.
Would this also allow vermin to enter?
Oh, most definitely, yes.
All right, next photo, please.
And this shows the window buckling. This is on a second story window. The window is actually buckling out, pulling away from the building there.
Is this still the dormer, or is this the main structure?
This is the main structure on the east side.
Main structure on the east side, so this is showing buckling, you say?
Yes, it's showing this. Actually, it's forcing the window out. The window is actually kind of popping out on this side there.
And what does this tell us in regard to
That the whole
foundation?
the foundation is shifting, and then when it's shifting, it's forcing other sections of the building to be compromised.
Is this a second story window?
Yes, it is.
So you're telling us that the foundation for the main structure is also compromised, is that?
Yes.
Next photo.
This is just a further shot away from of those windows on the second story.
Now, we see a lot of tar paper, is that correct?
That's correct.
And what is the tar paper? What's the purpose of that, if you tell?
That was what was under the asbestos, or when they had the asbestos removal team that went in there on that property and removed the siding.
All right, which of the windows is buckling that we had there earlier?
It's the second window,
The middle one?
the middle one, yes.
All right, very good. Next photo. What is it?
This picture is a picture of the foundation there supporting. As you can see on the bottom towards the ground there, you got your two levels, and then there's actually some that's missing there right above that has actually fell off.
Are you talking about the wood beams that are missing?
No, I'm talking the concrete block there.
So there's missing concrete block.
Yeah, it appears to be that way, yes.
This is the main building again.
That's correct.
And what is that?
Which is below those windows that were actually coming out, or looked like they were moving out.
Can you observe in this photo actual sinking of the ground? Is that what I'm seeing there?
If you're looking at it, it looks like it's kind of tilted a little bit forward, as if the main part of it, that the main part of the where it's hitting the ground, that it is sinking towards the front a little bit. Let's see if it doesn't. This one doesn't work either.
All right, let's move on to the next.
Okay.
Now here we have what appears to be new work. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
And this is from today, is that correct?
Yeah, this picture was taken from today.
What is shown?
When I took this picture, I was shown that there was, it looks like an attempt to prop up the top or secure the top, or to hold it from moving. if I'm not mistaken, there was no permit that actually came through that I've seen for any work to be done. I'm not positive on that. So that's why I took the picture, because I noticed that on Monday that something was actually done at the property looks like over the weekend.
Okay, this is something that was not done by the city.
That's correct. That's correct.
All right, very good. Now, did you review the permits, or did you have someone review the permits on your behalf to determine if the permit was full?
I did look up in the system, but I did not see anything in the system that shows that there was a permit that was applied for at this location. So I'm not sure if it actually came in and it was up front, and it hasn't been put into the system yet. But at the time that I looked, there was nothing in the system that work should have been done on the property.
And do you know when this work was done? Do you know what day it happened?
It had to be over the weekend. It could have been a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because when I came in on a Monday, I seen that, some work was done on the property.
All right, you're referring to this last week.
That's correct.
Very good.
This just shows that, if I get back to this picture, the beam that's running sideways here and it attaches to above the combination posting, and it shows, the whole what they tied it into. It's only held by 2 screws, and the if I'm looking at it, and there's the other one on the other side. If that was the only thing that was actually holding that up, and if the building is going to collapse and fall, it's not going to fall straight down. It's going to pull away. So if it's going to pull away from the building, I don't believe that the 2 screws would actually hold that. It would pull the siding off. And then there's the same. So that's why those photos were actually taken.
Very good. Next photo.
And that's on the other side. This is a shot to show if the deterioration of the roof there on the second story. And the picture I actually took was if you see the 2 kickouts on the front, how this one here is leaned out over further to where the other one is basically setting straight up. That just shows the kickout actually separating away from the main building.
You're referring now to the smaller unit.
Yes, right above, yes.
You're saying that is kicked out toward the street.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Next photo, please.
And here's a photo. This was as of today.
Other than the new construction that we see underneath the sagging area, was
Yes.
there any other work done to the building?
No, there was not, no.
Next photo, please.
That's basically the same one showing us a little bit of the side view.
In your opinion, does the structure represent some imminent danger?
Yes, it does.
And why is that?
Because of the street that's there, and if it does collapse and someone's walking by, or people riding the bicycles down through there, or vehicles, because the bus stop is right there also. So you do have a lot of people walking around in that area that someone could get hurt on that. Yes.
To your knowledge, has the city done anything to help make the area safe for passersby?
We've went out there. We've contacted the owner. We moved back. There was a vehicle that was staying there. The PD had the vehicle towed. We got the actual people that we're not sure if they were staying on the property in the back or not, but there hasn't been no one on the property. So we've been maintaining and monitoring the property, that there's no one around the property.
Has the property been secured in any way in terms of establishing a perimeter?
Yes, there has. There's a fence around it all the way out to the sidewalk.
Is the sidewalk closed?
No, the sidewalk is not closed.
If the structure were to collapse, would it fall into the sidewalk and street area?
In my opinion, it would, because it would go through the fence. It would actually go through the fence too.
All right, was an order issued in response to the findings on the property?
The demolition order, or yes, there was a emergency measure notice that was posted on the property.
All right, and you don't issue that order, right? Your boss issues that order.
That's correct.
And who's your supervisor?
Glenn Urquhart, building official. That's correct.
And did you report your findings to Mr. Urquhart?
Yes, I did.
And as a result, did he issue an emergency order?
Yes, he did.
Thank you very much. The appellant is represented by counsel today and would have an opportunity to cross-examine at this point.
Want to cross-examine him now?
Do you have to swear him in?
Yeah, he's coming up now.
James Stowers, here on behalf of Regina Real Estate LLC. I just have a couple questions. Mr. Cecil, are you a structural engineer?
I am not.
In your time with Daytona Beach, you mentioned just around a year. I am curious, you were the reviewer for the demolition permit submitted on February 28th and completed on, well, the following day. How many demolition permits have you approved in your time with the city?
I'm going to say near 100. I'm approaching 100, or if not more than 100.
100 demolition permits?
And these are not all just demolition permits that we go out and look for the condemnation. This is demolition permits that contractors, that homeowners have applied for demolition permits of structures and been out there and did those also.
And how many of those were approved within 24 hours?
Actually, I don't have those findings, but the permits are usually turned around pretty quick.
Okay.
Within a couple days, within a day or so, yes.
And in terms of the demolition process, what's the coordination with FDEP regarding asbestos and those various permitting issues? Is that done ahead of time? How does that coordinate with the permitting?
The permitting, we have the contractor that would actually go and contact the asbestos removal team, and they would come back with a quote and when they could actually get started on the project, and that would be approved through Mr. Urquhart of the findings of the asbestos.
So if a permit was submitted on February 28th, you can only assume FDEP would be notified if demolition started or removal of asbestos was the next day?
I don't understand the question.
You file a permit,
Yes,
there's a process with FDEP,
yes.
but within 24 hours, the demolition begins.
Well, in different circumstances, there would be a different process if the building is to be dangerous. You can contact FDEP for the asbestos and let them know if there's a fire, if there's a building that has collapsed. They can give special measures to go on and continue the process.
Okay, for this structure, was there a fire or was there a collapse?
The way the building official put it as imminent danger. So imminent danger is a dangerous structure.
Okay, so imminent danger. Can you give a little bit of your background? You mentioned you've been with the city for a year. Can you give some background beyond that, previous positions and educational background, please?
Okay, I've been doing building inspections and demolition inspections since 2005. I was with Flagler County, did demolition up there. We removed close to 200 structures within my time doing demolition. Worked with the city of Bunnell. We did some demolition in the city of Bunnell also at that time, during the time that I was with Flagler County. And also with the city of Castleberry, removed a couple structures in the city of Castleberry. So I've been in demolition since around 2004.
Okay, so in all that time, have you seen a situation where you have a private property owner that has a building permit in process, and within 24 hours, that building permit is removed from the system administratively, and a demolition permit is applied for, and demolition begins on the structure within 36 hours. Have you ever seen that?
There's been times that there has been permits that have been applied. This is in Flagler County, have been applied for, and that the structure has actually gotten worse within that time frame that they did apply for it, and we continued on with the demolition in an emergency measure.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor, our next witness would be Mr. Urquhart.
Glenn Douglas Urquhart, Chief Building Official, City of Daytona Beach.
Sure, just tell them what you're passing out there.
Here's pictures that reflect before and afters.
Do you have a copy of Mr. Sowers?
Yes.
Okay.
And while we're dealing with the record, let's also point out that in the record there is a report from MS Structural Engineers, which we'll be going over shortly, as well as some additional photos. And the notice of condemnation and demolition order is also in the package. So, Mr. Urquhart, would you tell us your full name and your title?
Glenn Douglas Urquhart, Chief Building Official.
Mr. Urquhart, what are your duties as the Chief Building Official?
Duties are various to where, in this particular case, it's for the demolition procedure and condemnation of structures, as well as building official, all new building within the city. And we also deal with existing structures and additions. So it's kind of encompasses everything that got to do with building and everything that's got to do with condemnation and demolition.
Could you give the board the benefit of your background, your professional background?
Professional background, I've worked with 2 engineering firms for 12 years. Then after that, I worked with City of Ormond Beach Building Department for 10 years, and I've been with the City of Daytona Beach for 5 years.
Do you hold any licenses or certifications?
I hold, I believe it's 51 certifications, 10 licenses, and inclusive of my fire licenses, that would be another 2, so 12 licenses.
And what are these? Could you give an example of what the licenses are?
The licenses are to encompass, as far as what we do within our department, building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, also fire investigation and fire safety inspections.
Are you familiar with the property that we're dealing with today?
Yes, I am.
How did you first become aware of this property?
First became aware of this property back in 2015 in my first year with the city.
What brought your attention to the site?
Attention on that one was actually a call from police and fire because their fire systems weren't working. And with the, excuse me, as far as the amount of vagrants that we had on the property, and I believe this was pre-ownership of the now existing owners. So in 2015, they had a lot of people just hanging out inside the structures, drinking. They had a lot of drug problems there, a lot of police calls. And then, so that was my first encounter with the property.
All right, now we're here today to talk primarily about structural issues. When was the first time you became aware of any structural issues on the site?
Structural issues were reports that followed after on 2016. 2016, they were dealing with Charles Adams, and he submitted reports as far as the structural integrity of the floor systems were compromised, as well as the front porch. And he actually went underneath the structure, and there was delamination of the floor joist. And he also dealt with the current situation of the dormers on the front.
And who is Mr. Adams?
Charles Adams is an engineer.
And who was he retained by?
He was actually retained by the owners.
Did he submit a report Dorman?
He submitted a report back then. The chief building official was Mr. Garrett. He submitted it to him.
All right. Have you reviewed that report? Is it in the file?
It's in the files, but I don't have that with me. That report I was aware of back in the days when that was submitted.
All right. And then how did the situation resolve in 2016 with regard to structural issues?
2016, they started work electrically to go ahead and redo the electric, and then they were starting to do work structurally, but nothing ever happened with it.
All right. When did you first become aware of these most recent issues with the structure and the dormer separating?
Most recent issues is because we actually posted the property back, I believe that was 2017. Then in response to that, they were going to submit plans. We had a meeting in May of 2018 with their attorney, which was Joel Osborne, and Joe Hiller, which was their structural engineer. And he had some preliminary drawings of what he was going to be working on to rectify the problems, and that was our last dealings with Mr. Hiller. I haven't seen him since then.
So to your knowledge, how long has this issue with regard to the separation of the dormer been in existence? How long?
It's always been in SAG since 2015. It's getting more prominent over the years, and now it's to the point where it's ripping away.
To your knowledge, has anyone ever done any work to shore that up other than what we saw in the most recent photos?
No, and we brought that up with back because Charles Adam actually met on the property, and we told him we needed a shoring plan submitted to the city. Never happened. And then we also said that as well to Mr. Hiller back in May of 2018, and it didn't happen back then either.
You've been to the site, I assume?
Multiple times.
And when was the last time you were out at the site?
This morning.
And were the photos, did the photos accurately depict what you observed on the site as well?
100%.
All right. Let's talk about the structural issues, and if we want to refer to the photos, we can pull those up for you. Tell me, what about the structure renders what about the foundation rather renders the structure unsafe?
Well, where you have the bottom footings that are supporting the columns, they're actually sinking in. And that's what's reflecting. You're getting the sag there. Your columns underneath your dormer area there are pushing down on the foundation system. Your foundation system's sinking into the soils. So that's where you got that imminent collapse out to the front. Where you see the dormer by the window there, right on that joint system, they put flex tape over that. That's actually about a 6-inch separation, and that's where it's pulling away from the building. As the columns are sinking, the building, that portion is coming this way. And it's also causing those walls of the south side of the building to flex with it. So that's the imminent collapse we have. If that section right there falls, it can also bring the south wall with it and go into the sidewalk area as well as the street.
And when you say the south wall, you're referring to what I'll call the main building?
The main building of the south wall of the main building.
If the dormer goes, the south wall of the main building could go as well.
It would bring a portion with that because that's what it's attached to.
All right. And were there other structural issues with regard to the foundation for the main building?
Yes, and those are the structural issues that have never been addressed since 2012 as well as 2016, which is inclusive in the report from Mr. Simcoe. And that shows as far as the sag in the floor joist system, as well as Charles Adams also reporting that. But those have never been addressed. Over all these years, it's still in the same situation.
Let's go to the photo with the blocks. That shows the earlier testimony was the foundation was deteriorated in some way. Can we get to that photo? This is on the main building.
You just got to switch the PowerPoint to the ones that were taken today.
I want to ask you about those particular photos because they deal with the main building. There we go. Thank you. Do you know what side of the building this is?
Yeah, that's the east side of the building. That is actually the northeast corner of that structural component, and there's actually portions of that are kind of popped out, so you don't have the full footing system there.
All right, so in your professional opinion, what does this signify with regard to the integrity of the structure on the main building?
That it's slowly deteriorating, and it's basically with most of the components on the building is where you get into time, and time delays, basically decays all things. As far as it could be 100 years from now, this building will start to show decay. This building, in the 5 years that I've been here, I've seen slow decay, and it's a slow process. But if you've been around, like if you've all of a sudden just come into it, and you've seen it for a couple of weeks, you're not going to see the decay. You're going to see just what there is today. But then if you saw it 5 years from now, you're going to see even more decay with time. So basically, since 2015, it's slowly fallen apart. The building is bulging out. Now those are the windows that, if we go back on the windows, John, right there on the lower part of the window is bulging out, and that's representative as you have your floor systems collapse in the midpoint. Your building will then start going down like this, which your lower portion of your building will go out, and that causes right there, you can see the window popping out.
All right, so setting aside the dormer issue and that's separating from the main building, is the main building in a situation that you would describe as imminent danger?
Yes, I would.
And why is that?
Because
what
you've
is
got...
it about the main building that is imminent danger?
What you have is, because you do have your front section on the south side attached to it, this can be like just like the game of dominoes, where once something happens, once the dormer pulls off, and inevitably it's going to pull off. It's already the 6 inches off, and you can go back to 2015, it was probably maybe a half an inch off. So the deflection continues. You have the deflection of the beams underneath on the structural supports. So if that pulls off, it's going to cause a domino effect on the building, and you can have sections that would pop off on the east side as well as the south side.
Now, based on your findings, you issued an order, is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's walk through the order real quick. Do you have a copy with you?
I do not.
Let me pass that to you. So the board does have a copy of the order in its packet.
Is it in here?
The first section of the order is entitled Imminent Danger. And it states that provided by section 109.1 IUC, that's International Property Maintenance Code, it's the opinion of the City of Daytona Beach Chief Building Official there is an imminent danger of failure or collapse of the structure that endangers life. Is that your opinion?
Yes, sir.
And what is that based on, if you could summarize for us?
That is based on the current condition of the building. And with you having the sidewalk right up front, now if the building is completely alienated from any public safety, and once again, I'm here for the public welfare, health, and safety of the public. So if it presents itself as a danger, that's when I have to post it. If this is within 5 acres smack in the middle, it has no effect on the public, then we would just go after it as a regular demolition. But since there is a possibility of collapse on the sidewalk section there, then further on into the street, that is why it was posted.
All right, and based on this determination of an imminent danger, did the city take emergency measures?
Yes, we did.
What did the city do in response to this imminent danger?
What we did was we went ahead and coordinated with the demolition team, which we had done a couple times in the past, that are able to mobilize right away to handle the situation. And contacted them. They were on site. We went ahead and put the letter out as far as imminent danger. And then we proceeded with, I met with them on site, and then we got into where the tiles on the side of it was contained asbestos. And so you have to do asbestos removal on that. And we do not address, in a situation where there's imminent danger, anything on the inside, because then you're sending people inside the building and putting them in danger, as well as when we incorporated the police to come out as far as to clear the building. We did it as far as a public announcement, as opposed to sending a police officer inside or a police dog, which is also an officer, so because we don't want to put them in danger as well. So the situation that we handled in this particular case was to remove the asbestos on the outside, and then after that we were going to go forth with demolition.
And why did you choose demolition as the remedy as opposed to some other means of remedying the situation?
Well, because it involves your public way, and your public way right there, with especially with the bus station right down the street, you have people frequenting that sidewalk on a daily basis.
Did you secure the perimeter around the building as well?
Perimeter was secured around the building as far as with the 6-foot fence during Bike Week, as with the notice afterwards by the owners. But as far as when we were proceeding with the demo initially, Public Works helped us out with putting barricades out front and blocking off the sidewalk.
So what is the worst case scenario in terms of the imminent danger in this with regards to the dormer?
Worst case scenario is that pulls off, falls into the public way, brings the south side of the building with it, and the domino effect also brings other portions of the building.
And I presume that would be an imminent danger to passersby and vehicles as well?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, we know, of course, that the demolition was not completed. Why is that?
They had action as far as on their side, as far as the attorney applying for appeal.
So the city stopped the demolition process in order to have this appeal, or is that accurate?
Yes, it was due diligence on that part to let them have that opportunity. It's not normal in a situation of imminent danger, because within imminent danger, you can, situation like that, per the IPMC, which is the International Property Maintenance Code, the only thing that is exempt from that would be an imminent danger case, which this is.
But you felt it was safe, at least on a temporary basis, in order to go through the due process?
Because we went ahead and blocked that off. I mean, I still, and in my opinion, imminent danger still exists, of course, but we're going through the proceeding today.
Very good. Now, one of the photos that Mr. Cecil presented showed some new work on the property. Some
Yes, sir.
4x4s, looks like they've been put up after.
Yeah, they had 4x4s as your support columns, along with 4x6s, and in an apparent attempt to shore up the bottom side of the dormer.
Do you know when that work was done?
It was in the past week, during Bike Week.
Were any permits pulled for that work, to your knowledge?
No.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the work that was done remedied the imminent danger?
It does not. And as we were out there this morning, he's going to go ahead and, once he brings that picture up, we'll refer to that. But with that work being done, it's going to show your 4x4s put up underneath it. And the only attachment to the actual building itself is on the south wall, with the 2 screws on the right side and the 4 screws on the left side into the siding. Now, your supports down below, they have makeshift footings, but as your building is sagging, it's just going to send those footings haven't been pre-engineered. There's nothing submitted as far as how deep they are, what they can support. And so if that dormer pulls away and pulls the south wall with it, all it's going to do is pull those 2 supports that are attached to it. That'll rip right off the wall. So it's not holding it into place. In a situation like that, you'd have to have some diagonal bracing that's forcing it back up. This is just straight up. This is sagging down. As it pushes that down to the soil, still pulls off.
Now, what would be the normal process if the property owner wanted to remedy the structural issues? Tell us just how we should have gone forward with that.
And we presented this to Joe Hiller in our May meeting as far as to present a shoring plan to us. It's a standard protocol. You can consent with like Ramjack and different companies to go ahead and come in, and they'll shore the building up for you. And essentially, they would jack up the underside floor joist, and then the front section, they could go ahead and shore that up as well. But it's got to be a shoring system designed by an engineer. And this one that's in place, there it is right there. That's a makeshift shoring system. That's not good. That's not going to take care or remedy the situation that we have in hand here.
So normally the owner would go through a permitting process with the city, and the city would approve the plans to shore up the building. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Is that done in this case?
No.
Now, you had an engineer go out and look at the site as well recently, is that right?
Yes, John Simcoe.
And you're not an engineer, is that correct?
No, sir.
So you had a structural engineer go out, Mr. Simcoe, and did he produce a report for you?
He did.
And that's part of the packet as well?
Yes, sir.
Let's direct the board's attention to that report. And if I may, I'll just read it into the record so that it'll be clear as to what the report indicates. And then I'll ask you some questions.
Sure.
So the report indicates the findings. Number one, the first impression made for this project was on April 4th, 2012. Second inspection was in 2016 with a meeting with the owners at the time. In both instances, the discussion revolved around saving the structure. In 2012, extensive repairs to the structure would have to be made in order to bring the project into the current code standards or demolish the structure and build new. In 2016, it was told to the owners that the structure had major structural problems and repair was not an economic solution and recommended the structure be demolished. Again, number 6, again, with the inspection of March 5th, 2019, the same opinion exists that the structure is beyond reasonable repair costs to bring the current level of structural code requirements of the 2017 Florida Building Code. Number 7, the foundation is seen to be non-resistant to the loadings requirement. Number 8, the major perimeter spandrel beams are not connected to the piers. Number 9, the piers appear not to be designed for the current lateral load. Number 10, the wood frame has been decimated by water, termite, and the environment. Number 11, the floor framing is beyond repair and in some cases completely collapsed. Number 12, the current lateral load to be imposed on the structure by the code requirements will make it economically unfeasible to repair. Number 13, note some of the photos and codes were taken in 2012. Number 14, please note the items that have brought up are structural items. There are plumbing, heating, air, sewer, and the fact that asbestos installation still remain problems. Recommendations. Number 1, my opinion and recommendation would be to demolish the existing structure and build new due to deterioration of the structural elements of the structure and the major costs involved to bring to code level requirements. Number 2, in order to bring the current code level requirements, would require 100% of the existing structure to be raised, redesigned, and constructed. And the final recommendation, the condition of the existing structural elements should be considered failed. Now, why did you have this report done?
This report was done after the appeal was filed. So we had, as far as backup evidence for our findings, was to go ahead and employ a structural analysis report from this structural engineer.
Do you agree that the property is beyond repair? It would be unreasonable for the owner to repair or rehabilitate the property?
Yes, I do.
And why do you say that?
The condition, in fact, the permit that's actually, not the permit, I'm sorry, but the application that was submitted was originally for the amount of $80,000 in repair, only addressing the components of the floor system, the dormer, then understand also the components under the main structure, but nothing internally. So you also have to add into this, because within the pictures, all the cast iron piping that's cracking and rusted, so your plumbing system's compromised. That's going to have to be replaced. Your electrical system's compromised. You're going to have to address that, and also the mechanical system on the underside of this structure. It had the underfloor mechanical system. That is also compromised. So in this situation, you're going to have to add into the repairs mechanical, electrical, plumbing onto your structural components.
And the combination of those factors would make it unreasonable to repair?
Yeah, they're going to go way beyond the 50% value as far as for repair, and it's going to be unfeasible and uneconomical as far as for them to do that.
I don't have any further questions at this time. Mr. Stowers may have some for you.
Good morning. For the record, James Stowers. I would request permission to see
I
whatever.
can't hear you.
I would request permission to see whatever report the city produced at some point during this process. Would have been happy to review this March 6th or sometime thereafter. I've never seen this.
For the record, it's just been handed to Mr. Stowers.
There was a reference made to structural engineer Charles Adams, his report from 2016. I would ask you if you could take a look at that and verify that that is.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Urquhart, I'd like to read in the last paragraph of this item into the record. Mr. Urquhart's verified this is the structural report, the structural engineer report from 2016 referenced earlier. Based on this inspection, it is our professional opinion that the building does not require demolition and removal at this time. However, the nature and extent of the damage does require structural repair plans. The building is currently safe for entry by inspectors and construction personnel only. If you have any additional questions or require additional information, please feel free to contact us. Sincerely, Charles Adams, Florida license 15113. That's from the structural engineer.
Will you be presenting that to the board with copies from the board?
Sure.
Let the board see it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's back. I didn't see it. Take a look at it and pass it back.
Mr. Urquhart, are you a structural engineer?
No, sir, I'm not.
Are you aware that there was a building permit application submitted by the property owner in August of 2018?
Yes, I am.
Can you please read and verify that is your comment dated January 7th, 2019?
Yes, under the fire site, fire life safety review, yes, sir.
For the record, the comment reads, please provide shoring plan for structure. Any repairs to existing fire systems will require a separate permit and review. This building's 120 years old. You mentioned the lifespan of slow deterioration. Can you talk to me, please, about what happened between January 7th, 2019 and February 26th, 2019? That would be a difference in your position in terms of the structure.
Yes, and as we got to the end of February, that would be the end of that application period. And we originally discussed, like I said, back in May of 2018, for them to pull the permit and submit the application. Then we got to August, where it actually was submitted. There were comments made back at that time for them to address. They encountered where they owed, I believe it was either $2,700 or $2,900 on water that was used and an unpaid utility bill. So they finally paid that, which was for the application and permit review to continue. So it did continue. The comments were sent out, and then at that point, that was the first week of January. February went by, all of January, of course. Where my stance changed was because I checked up on this building, and the dormer continuously is pulling away. And when it got to that point, I'm like, I got to make the call. So I made the call. It is in my determination as far as for the public safety and welfare of the city that's why I went ahead and went with imminent. And the reason you saw that the permit was closed out, that was administratively closed by me, is because the 180 days had expired at that point and a permit was not issued. So we're dealing with two separate issues here. You have an issue where they submitted an application to obtain a permit to make the repairs, which never happened as far as repairs, and it was just drug along. And the whole time, the structural engineer knew that the shoring plan was asked for all the way back in May. So we're in this situation, and so now you've got the portion of the building continuously to pull away. So I made the determination of imminent danger, posted it imminent danger, and that's where we got to that point.
Okay, so there's a posting of imminent danger to the public, people walking by on the sidewalk. Mr. Cecil referenced earlier that the fence along the sidewalk, he suggested that if the structure pulled away, it would go through the fence. So he was suggesting that the imminent danger has not been resolved by the fence. My question for you is, once Samsula Demolition was hired to go onto this property, what did they do to shore up the property or address the imminent danger?
The demolition company doesn't do anything to shore up anything. When the demolition company comes in, they're at the point of, on the exterior, to remove the asbestos, which was inclusive in the tile on the siding. For the public, it was temporary safeguard was the barricades put up by Public Works, and that's where we got to that point where they started the demolition.
Okay, so from March 1st, when demolition starts and the crews are on the site, on the property owner's property, working on the site, to March 6th, you're suggesting there was nothing done to shore up the property as you had requested back in January.
Well, the demolition company wouldn't shore the property up.
That's right. So there's been reference a couple times to the lack of a permit for the work that was done. The work was actually done on March 7th. The work was done at the request, the demand, if you will, of the city manager. And I'm happy to read it. If you'd like to read that into the record, I will do so. So no shoring happens March 1st through March 6th. People are coming and going along the property. The suggestion from the city is that this property is in imminent danger of collapse. So you've got this gap. And then on March 6th, I received the following from the city manager. Demand is hereby placed on the property owner by the city of Daytona Beach to immediately secure the property, including the boarding up of openings to render the structure temporarily safe, no later than 5 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday, March 7, 2019. Further demand is also hereby placed on the property owner by the city of Daytona Beach for the safety of the public to secure the sidewalk, street, and public ways adjacent to the unsafe structure and prohibit the same from being utilized no later than 5 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday, March 7, 2019.
Again, will you be submitting that to the board?
You have that in your, they have that in the packet.
Yeah, they do. Okay.
Yes.
So you have a demand from the city manager to shore up the property, an imminent danger, but this gap.
And that demand that was issued that was in response to your appeal.
Right.
And of what the property owners needed to do.
Right. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions of this witness?
I have one. On the removal of the asbestos, who absorbs the cost of that right now?
The cost of that is it will be absorbed by us within the building department because we were ordering the demolition.
Do you have any idea of the cost of that?
I do not. I would say that's going to be probably around $3,000 to $4,000.
Well, that I assumed it would be more.
Because that was their crews as far as for scraping the tile down. Then they have their own asbestos crew on Samsula. And so they had, I believe they worked 2 days, and I believe it was 3 guys. So it would be paying for their man hours for that amount of time.
Usually the biggest cost on asbestos removal is wherever you place it, proper.
In which, and with Samsula Waste, they not only own their actual demolition company, but they also own their own dump. So the costs are with them as far as they're not having to pay to put it at another dump.
But I mean, it's suitable for asbestos dumping.
Yes, sir.
Hazardous material.
Yes, sir.
Are all the utilities off of the building?
All the utilities, I follow the regular demolition process, so all the electric, gas, sewer, all the taps were removed. Everything was taken procedurally as a regular demolition.
That's it. Thank you.
Does that prompt any further questions from the opponent?
Do you have any questions?
I have a
Any
question.
questions of the board members?
I have one question for Glenn. You mentioned delamination of the joists. And my question is, obviously that's what's holding the whole structure up. What would be the remedy for that to repair?
The remedy of that, and that is what they had stated back in 2016, would be first they'd have to use a company kind of like Ramjack to go ahead and get it up, and then replace that support system. The joists that are in place right now would have to be replaced.
Right, and to do that, wouldn't you have to remove like all the flooring? Because it's all
Yeah,
nailed to the
it'd
joists?
be extensively expensive.
That's what I thought. That's the only question I had.
Anything further from the board?
On the shoring that got done on the 7th or whatever, is that substantial to keep the building safe? And it was the plywood put over the windows as well?
No, the only plywood that was put over was the front door, and those doors were actually removed and put safely away because there was so much public interest, and then we also have a lot of homeless people over there. So instead of it being something thrown through the glass or whatever, those were removed. Plywood was put on there. The property owner was to go ahead on all the windows on the first floor that would be accessible to board them up. They have not been boarded up. And then you also have, as far as the shoring in place, there was no shoring plan submitted, so the shoring that is in place is not sufficient to take away the imminent danger.
So the person that put the shoring up, they weren't able to request an inspection or anything?
No, I don't even know who it was, whether it was
Okay.
handyman or, I don't know who they employed for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions from the board? Mr. Powers, anything further to this business in response to the questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
City has no further witnesses.
Board comments?
Sowers' turn.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Good morning again, James Stowers. In a moment, I'll be calling up Joe Hiller, structural engineer that's been involved with the property for a couple years. I want to quickly walk through some of the background involving how we got here this morning. As has been suggested earlier, the property has a lengthy history, dating back 120 years. But beyond that, in terms of some of the back and forth with the city, what I want to do is get to August 28th. And that was the date that the property owner, the current property owner, submitted a building permit application. They submitted the application, the city reviewed it, redevelopment and administrative staff, by September 5th. And there was a glitch. They found that there was a utility issue, and there was an amount owed of $2,857.64. And so previous counsel for the property owner reached out and had discussions with the city on September 13th. There were follow-up correspondence October 26th, November 6th, and then November 8th, there was a letter from the deputy city manager to the property council at the time, laying out a plan. Now, I mention this because the building permit application was submitted, but on September 5th, the property owner was told it would not be processed, it would not be reviewed, because there was an outstanding utility lien. They disagreed with the utility lien. The utilities had been cut off for quite some time. And so there was a back and forth with the city. There was correspondence appropriate. And on November 8th, there was a general plan brought forward from the city. Pay the utility fine, lien, and then we will review your building permit. It didn't say we'll approve it. It said we'll start reviewing it. So you have this gap between September 5th, when the city says we're not reviewing your building permit, until November 8th, when there's a decision made, we will review your building permit, but we'll only do it when you pay the utility lien. So the property owner begrudgingly pays the utility lien on January 4th. They pay $2,857.64. And the city stands by the previous decision, and they provide review comments through their electronic e-tracket system. So those were provided on January 7th online. And that was the comment I referenced earlier about the shoring up plan. So I want you to look at it from property owner's perspective. You've got a building permit in process. You're having discussion back and forth with the city. And now you get to January 7th. From then, there's no correspondence, nothing from the property owner, but just as importantly, nothing from the city. During that time, the property owner is in discussions about selling the property. They're looking at proceeding with the building permit process. They're trying to figure things out. And as recently as the Monday of that week, February 26th, they're in discussions about selling the property. On February 26th, without a phone call, without an email, without anything, the building permit application is administratively closed. The following day, the property is noticed with a condemnation and demolition order. The property owner's van is towed from the property. Email correspondence from the city says the meter pulled. That's dated February 27th. A contract with Samsula Demolition is submitted by the city, approved on the 28th. Additional correspondence: sewer tap has been plugged. Water taps have been abandoned. All from the city. They're shutting this down. On March 1st, dumpsters are placed at the property. Removal of siding begins. I got involved on March 3rd. It was a Sunday. I saw the situation. I was up in Jacksonville. I left my family to come back down here to see what the heck was going on. So I meet with the client, and they're looking up at the rear of their building, and they said, "What happened?" I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "We painted this building. This building had siding on it. It's all gone." And I just shook my head. I sent correspondence to the city that Sunday night requesting a meeting to figure out what was going on. I had a very, I think, a meaningful conversation that Monday with a strategy to address this. I was later told the city's going to demolition the property. I said, well, the city's got their building code to follow, and that building code has an appeal process. And I'll note the notices that go out on those demolition orders have a paragraph, appeal. It wasn't a paragraph that referenced an appeal on this notice. So I had no choice but to submit for the appeal, which was timely. An appeal can be made within 20 days. And so I filed the appeal, or requested the appeal, March 3rd. March 4th, I requested the appeal again. By March 5th, all siding had been removed from the property. So the pictures you saw earlier of a hand going into some damaged wood under a window, that actually had siding on it. Now, I'm not suggesting that termite damage isn't there. What I'm suggesting is there was siding over top of it that's been removed, opening this property up to the elements. Similarly, I would reference the windows, the discussion. The siding appeared to be flush. If you were to go back and look at the original pictures of the building when it was white, you'd see that those windows are all flush with the siding. Well, you remove the siding, the windows are out. So March 6th, we received the notice, the emergency order of imminent collapse. The notice of hearing was set for today. And as I referenced earlier, I received a letter from the city manager saying, hereby demand you shore up the building immediately. On February 26th, the building was completely secured. There were locks on all the doors. I'm not aware of a single window that was broken on the property. When Samsula Demolition went to work on March 1st, they broke open the doors. They removed the Lyndhurst Hotel doors. They just removed the siding. They went to work. As I mentioned earlier, at no point did they shore up the imminent danger. And the suggestion has been made, well, this was a demolition. This is not shoring up the property for protecting the public. I can't wrap my brain around that logic when you have numerous days going by and you have a crew that went in to the building, removed fire equipment, removed anything of value. You had the doors removed, going throughout the property, removing the siding. There was no demolition trucks at the site. They were prepping the site. And this was going on over the course of many days. And so the suggestion that, well, we shouldn't have done anything to address the imminent danger, that logic seems inconsistent with reasonableness. And so what I'd like to do is first have our structural engineer come up. I'm going to ask him some questions. And what I would suggest in terms of what the board could do is the property owner is happy to go back and retroactively address the shoring plan and through the permit process, and we can do it on an immediate basis. But again, the demand made was, you got less than 24 hours. Go do this right now. They're doing what they were told by the city. So we can address that. I think that can happen inside a week. So that would be the first issue to address the shoring issue. That was, again, this is going back to the building official from January 7th. So that would address the immediate issue. And then longer term, I think I anticipate this property will either be sold or there'll be a building permit request made. And I think, both of those will happen within 60 days. One of those two. So I think our request would be shoring plan completed with the city within 14 days to address the imminent danger. And then we come back here in 30 days and we give a report that there's either sale of the property or the sale is imminent, or there's a building permit that we're working through. So with that, I would like to call up the structural engineer to speak on the record, and then I'm happy to answer questions.
Joseph Hiller, structural engineer, and I had drawn the repair plans that were submitted to the city for repairing the front porch.
Joe, can you provide your background, please, for the...
Yes,
Could he be sworn in, please?
Yes, good. Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony and the evidence you give today is the truth, but nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. I've started an engineering firm in 1989, so I've been doing this almost 30 years. I'm a licensed registered structural engineer in the state of Florida. I was called in, I believe, initially in late 2016, went out in 2017 and assessed the building and was addressing the porch issues. I have personally crawled underneath the building and assessed all the piers, and we did a plan to do some repair work on the beams. Some of the repair work that Mr. Adams had indicated had been done, so there were new piers, new beams, new things installed underneath the building when we inspected it. I have no idea as whether it was permitted or not, but I can attest to the fact that there was new piers, but it was not completely repaired at that time, and we made some assessments at that point. But we did draw plans to remove and repair the front porch and that front dormer that's pulling away from the structure. As far as the shoring plan, I had a preliminary one that I had spoke to with the contractor, but these were going through the attorney, not directly. The city was not in direct contact with me, and I had no idea as to what was going on with the permitting process. So until recently, I was unaware of the imminent issue of I assume that the shoring plan would be done when they filed for the permit, or they had already gotten another engineer to, draw up a shoring plan and already started construction. I had no idea what was going on. I know that we had met with the city and with the attorney. We went over the plans. We made revisions to the plans as per that time, and they were resubmitted for permit.
Mr. Hiller, have you been out to the property recently?
Yeah, I was out there this morning. Wanted to see the condition of the building, and there was the temporary shoring that was put in there. It needs a little bit of work. Although they, from what I originally had spoke to the contractor about, is that they couldn't attach any shoring directly to the front porch flooring because the front porch had some wood rot and deterioration. They'd have to attach directly to the ground, which is what they did. They have concrete blocks to spread the load out, and then they have another support post underneath those. There should be at least two more 4x4 posts. There should be some other things done to properly secure the front. But I should also note that the salvage company that was out there probably should have shored that up before they had construction guys pulling those doors out directly underneath that area. That was a dangerous situation.
Mr. Hiller, in your opinion, can the items you addressed be completed in the next 14 days or less?
As far as shoring plan, absolutely. Yep.
And in your opinion, do you believe that securing a permit from the city is reasonable to complete that within the same time frame?
Yes. From my recollection, there was the shoring plan, and I didn't see any other comments that addressed the structure at that time.
So beyond this front porch issue, can you touch on some of the discussion earlier about the structure, some chipping at the concrete, or the report that you've had a chance to review since we've been sitting here? If you can touch on a couple of those items.
Yes. What Mr. let's see, from MS Structural Engineers. Mr. Simcoe was noting in his letter was that it's difficult to take a 100 or 120-year-old building and meet current codes. It is true that the piers underneath the building do not meet current lateral loads. Of course, any building probably built prior to 1994 doesn't meet lateral loads. As far as the repairs, the piers can be done, the beams can be put in there. The main structure is actually not in imminent collapse. The front porch has deteriorated, those beams are bad, and that dormer is literally pulling away from the building. And as they've all said, it's separated from the building about 4 to 6 inches. It's already separated from the building. It's not going to pull the front wall down. It's not even attached to it. It was poorly constructed when it was originally built. That original building, the history of it had it as a front porch that was open with railings. And then it was later enclosed and put a roof on. And again, all of that was done quite a few years ago, many years ago, and they didn't properly attach it to the building. So it's separated from the building very easily. The nails pulled right out. I've literally been in the building on that second floor in that room, which is a bathroom. I don't recommend walking up to the wall, but there's a doorway there, and you could literally see where it was pulling away from the building, pulling the nails out. So it's not rigidly attached to the front structure of the building, but it can collapse, and they do need to have proper shoring so they can repair or replace the front porch and that dormer, which is what the plans that we drew up addressed.
Mr. Hiller, earlier, city building staff referenced a number of items. The windows, there was a hand through some termite damage where the siding had been removed. Can you touch on some of those specific details given in reference to the suggestion that the building is in imminent danger of collapse?
Well, when we were out there originally, it had asbestos siding on it, so it was not readily apparent how the original siding was. The studs that are in the building, though, are original heart pine, and they are not termite riddled on the side of the building in those particular areas. They pretty much have petrified, so they're extremely hard. The siding does show some signs of water damage and needs to be repaired. Actually, removing the asbestos siding was probably a good thing. They can now go back in and repair the existing siding on the building as necessary.
Okay.
That could be added to the permit, I guess.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Hill. Just a couple questions for you, if I might.
No problem.
If we could pull up the photo of the dormer separation, please.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. So, Mr. Hiller, you would agree that this photo shows the dormer separating from the main building?
Yeah, yep, where it's excessively sagged on the front porch, and that whole second floor area is pulling away from the building.
And you would agree that the structural foundation, the columns, the flooring, is compromised to such extent that dormer could completely release from the building, is that right?
Yes. It needs shoring. Absolutely.
So you would agree then with the determination of the building official that is an imminent dangerous condition?
Yes,
That could come apart at any time?
it could.
And if that were to come apart, it would fall into the street, is that accurate?
I don't know if it would go that far because there's a parking area there of 20 feet or more to the street, but it's entirely possible. Yeah.
And when it hit the ground, it'd be like an explosion. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. It would. Yeah.
So the debris could travel across the street to passersby on the other side of the building.
I guess it's possible.
And you indicated this was poorly constructed, the dormer was poorly constructed.
Yeah, as far as attachment to the existing structure, yes.
And I assume these dormers were constructed at the same time, is that right? That appear from your...
Yeah.
So the other dormer is poorly constructed as well?
Yes.
And would suffer from the same structural issues that the dormer that's blowing apart has?
Yes, so the other one should be probably lag bolted or connected to the building, more rigidly than it currently is. It could be repaired, but yes, it could pull away.
As it sits right now, today, that second dormer could pull away and would also represent an imminent danger. Is that accurate?
It could if the structure below it were to give way. The structure below that is where they were entering and out of the building, and that area has actually had the foundation reinforced and repaired in that corner of the building. So
still some possibility for that dormer to separate as well.
Yes, we had a hurricane or some other severe thing that would cause it, but the foundation directly underneath that appears to be in okay condition.
Now, why is the foundation compromised under the dormer that's separated?
There was water lines, I believe, at one time underneath there, and there was some gas lines, and they were sweating over the years, and it provided moisture, which deteriorated the beams underneath there. So those posts were sitting on a wood beam that is deteriorated, and what you see is it's just over time, it's lost structural integrity, and the beam is just sag. This has taken quite a few years to get to this point, and that beam across the top, once it started separating, you got moisture getting in there, and that the roof structure and the beam and the posts, they just kept slowly deteriorating.
You're referring to the roof structure now that's sagging. I'm asking about the foundational sinking of the building.
Oh, the piers did not appear to be sinking like a sinkhole or anything. The piers, what happened is the piers underneath the building are old. They're original brick structure. They have no steel reinforcing in them. So when you start getting the beams moving and twisting, then it pushes on the columns laterally, which is what Mr. Simcoe was talking about. It pushes on them sideways, and they're just stacked bricks with mortar between them, 100-plus-year-old mortar. So what happens is those piers start to move sideways underneath the porch structure.
Let's pull up a picture of those piers if we can.
Sure.
At the bottom. No, I'm talking about on the porch beneath the columns. There we go. All right, so is it your opinion that this is a sound foundation for that column?
No, that again, as I was explaining, that column is actually sitting on a wood beam underneath the floor, which is deteriorated completely. The wood beam is sitting on the piers, the brick piers that are supporting it. So that beam in between there is completely gone.
Is that the way the entire building is supported? Does that go around the perimeter of the building, a wood beam supported by brick?
Yes. And there's numerous interior columns that support it. That's the way the buildings were all built back in the days. They were built on piers up in the air, and you had a crawl space underneath so you could get to all the utilities.
So the main structure, you'd agree, has some foundational issues as well?
Yes, it does.
All right, and is that a dangerous condition?
Not at this point. It needs to be addressed before you could get occupancy in it. The floors have moved and sagged a little bit, so they're uneven, and it needs to be addressed. So before you would get any sort of CO or anything, it definitely needs to be repaired. Absolutely.
But you would agree that there are structural, foundational issues with regard to the main building as well as the normal dwelling?
Yes.
Now let's pull up a picture now, if we can, of the new construction work of the 4x4s. Now, to be clear, you did not design this,
No, no,
and you would not have designed it in this way, correct?
no, I did not.
And it's your opinion that this is insufficient, this is poorly designed, and inadequately designed in a way to resolve the danger.
Right, they did some good things, going down to the ground and putting the posts in and trying to put a beam back to the building to provide lateral support for those columns. But they need, and I met with the owner this morning and I told him he would need, it would need more columns put in, it would need some other issues when I was talking to him about the shoring that's there. It's better than nothing, but it needs more.
So you would agree with Mr. Burkhardt and Mr. Cecil that the building could still collapse at any moment into the street, even with that shoring?
Yes, it could still collapse.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Sowers, have any redirect? Okay, that's okay.
For the record, James Stowers. So as I suggested earlier, and as the structural engineer referenced, our request would be to immediately address the shoring plan for the front porch. I think that can be resolved.
You have no further witnesses?
No,
Any
sir.
further witnesses?
No,
Okay,
sir.
great, thank you. Go ahead.
That could happen at the discretion of the board, let's call it in the next 7 days. Go through the permit process to address that. Property owner still maintains they believe the property will likely be sold in the next 30 to 60 days. As such, we would request that the shoring plan be put in place to address the immediate issue within the next 7 days. And then we would come back here in 30 days and either tell the building code board property has been sold and perhaps demolished, or building permit application is in process, but the immediate issue has been addressed. So that is our request of the board, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just one question, so you're saying that you're asking that the board give you 30 days to come back again, and at that point you could make a decision whether or not you would want to demolish the place with the new owners or look for a building permit.
Correct.
And you're asking for some time in between to do the shoring. Okay.
So, again, the history is what it is at this point. I think if we could go back, this process would have been started sooner, perhaps in early February, and give everyone an opportunity to go through this process rather than cart before the horse, going forward with the demolition processing of the site 48 hours after the building permit was pulled administratively. And so, in order to address that, and I will say, this was done March 7th. This was completed per city manager's demand. I will express my disappointment that we're just learning today that the city is dissatisfied with it. We would have been happy to hear from them. My phone's always on. I would have been happy to hear from them on March 7th that they needed additional materials. It's been 12 days, and here we are on March 19th, and the city's referencing this in the context of the hearing before you. And same thing with the structural engineer report. I would have preferred an opportunity to review that some point between March 6th and March 19th. So with that, I think there are sufficient reasons why the property owner can make this request, which is, again, going to involve them going back to the city that all these things have been going on with over the last 2 months. So they want to move forward, and we're just asking to work with them. And I'm happy to answer. Sure.
Questions?
Yeah, on that beam they put in there, where did they get the permit to do that? I thought it was against the law in town to do any structural without a permit.
You're exactly right, Mr. Brown. And
Did they go apply for one?
no. And what you're touching on is the exact catch-22 that got them here in the first place. The discussion back in August was you're not allowed to do anything without a building permit. You've got to get a building permit. So they submitted one. And then we had the utility lien issue. And so they would have been happy to go through the process, but they wanted to follow the rules. So the same rules that are holding them up from doing the work are the rules that now are being used against them that they're violating when they do the work that they've been told to do. So it's around and around it goes. I know the city's frustrated. I know the property owner's frustrated. And we're just, the property owner's asking to try to work through these items.
But this has been going on for years, and that's who's picking up the liability for the city if something falls on the sidewalk or whatever, falls on somebody. Have they got the liability insurance to cover it?
I can talk with the property owner. I think to talk about the history and go back, I mean, it's just going to be on and on. There were previous property owners. I've got reports of tens of thousands of dollars of the fire system being improved, the roof being repaired after one of the hurricanes. You've got permitting fees that they've accrued over the years. There's been a lot of work for them to just carry this property, and I agree, they haven't done enough. But to suggest that they've done nothing is inaccurate.
I have a question. I don't know whether you want to address it or the engineer. I'm sorry for not calling, talking to you while you were here.
No, that's why I'm here.
When you first went out to the property, excuse me, you gave them a analysis on just shoring up the front porch with the dormers attached to it?
Yes, yeah, the shoring was with the dormer attached, yes.
And you didn't give them a cost on the shoring on the main building?
No, I only spoke to the contractor that was involved in the permitting process as far as the shoring and what I would like to see as far as shoring. I didn't actually finalize a shoring plan for him because they didn't get the contractor didn't get back in touch with me. I'm assuming because the permit was held up. I think it might have been better if they had a separate permit for the shoring and not include it, but the shoring was rolled into the permit for the repair of the front porch. So it would have had to have been shored up before they could repair or demo the front porch and rebuild it. So I think it was rolled together. I don't know if everybody understood that or not, but again, we had another lawyer involved that was also dealing with it for the clients. So not everything went directly through me. And I wasn't aware once we submitted the plans of the issues, other than a phone call saying we were going to need a shoring plan at some point. I said, okay, this is what I'm going to want to see. And I detailed it out similar to that, but would have had drawings and details and engineering and some extra bracing, but that's what I had discussed with the contractor. But it was only over the phone, and again, nothing happened for months.
Okay, on your shoring, and this would be to address to the attorney, would the shoring the shoring underneath all of the building, not just the front porch, all of the building, because we've established that it's not structurally sound the way that it is, correct?
The area of eminent collapse was the front porch area, which is the area we were talking about immediate shoring. Now, if you're talking about providing additional shoring or bracing underneath the main structure, that can also be added to the process, absolutely.
But we've established that the shoring or the main structure itself isn't structurally sound.
On the front porch area here, yeah, right on that front porch.
But I'm talking about the remainder of the building underneath the main building.
Some of it has been repaired, and then other areas do need to have some additional repair work to the beams that are underneath there. They're kind of in the back portion of the building. And yes, they probably need to be done. I don't think it's an imminent collapse in those areas. It's supporting an interior wall. It's not exterior. But certainly, if it would help with the building officials and everybody else in the city, absolutely. Let's make sure they shore that up as well, and it could be added to the shoring plan.
As a structural engineer, wouldn't you
Well, I recommended that they do that, and I had a letter for that, and it was part of the repair work that we were doing. So in order for them to, once they did the porch, they were also going to have to repair the foundation, add some more support piers, and reinforce and replace some of the main support members underneath the
But as
building.
it stands now, the structural before any work would commence on the the front porch and the dormers and everything. Wouldn't you, as a structural engineer, require?
Yes, yeah, and it was part of the plans. It was one of the issues that after we had initially turned in the plans for the front porch area, then I met with Mr. Urquhart and on the job site, and that's when we did a survey underneath the rest of the building. And that's when we crawled underneath it. We measured each one of them. We located all the piers. We took pictures. We were going in, analyzing all the members of the wood that were underneath there to make sure that which ones were good, which ones were not good. We denoted those, and we did repair plans. I also did, as part of the repair plans, also included completely replacing the steel fire escape stairs in the back of the building that are severely rusted. They were also part of my initial report. I did a report. So they were listed, and we designed a whole new set of fire escape ones that were also part of the permit package.
On the, in your engineer's estimate, what would you say that the cost for securing the building?
Securing the building could run $10,000 or $15,000. Just temporarily supporting the building and securing it so that it doesn't collapse. That's all we're talking about, not repairs.
What do you think the repairs would be?
I did not get into addressing the cost of the repairs because I wasn't sure of the extent of what they were going to do with their contractor. I was talking only structure, but the structure would have been easily $60,000 or $65,000 on just framing and repair work. That was last year. I'm sure prices have gone up considerably since then.
You made mention on the hard Florida pine. I'm well aware how hard it is and how long it lasts.
Yes.
When your estimation on this building, just as a visual, and what little bit we've seen on this, what percentage of the wood do you think is salvageable in that building?
As far as salvageable, it's probably close to about 80% are salvageable. There's only a few beams that are underneath the building that were damp and got wet and deteriorated. The main structure of the building is okay. However, when you get the foundation, it tends to want to lean and twist and move, which you clearly see on that front porch. And the rest of the building also needs to be addressed. When we were there, I had the owners cut and remove all sorts of bushes on the west side of the building so that there wouldn't be excessive moisture built up underneath. I had them install new lattice work underneath the building so you wouldn't have creatures in there. I guess there were some homeless people at one time that were crawling underneath the building. So all of that was addressed prior when we were out there as comments that I verbally made to the owner, and I was under the impression that he had done that. I don't know exactly, but I believe that they had tried to secure the foundation of the building area to keep, vermin out of it.
Because in the, the whole crux is, cost, the element of repairing this building versus the demolition of it. Am I correct on assuming that?
Right.
As an attorney representing people, I can understand the owners. On the engineering aspect of it, I'm going to throw you a wild one here, and I know you love them. What do you think the cost would be to repair this and habitable and bringing it up to all standards?
Probably over $100,000. Probably, and that's something that the owners were grappling with: the historic nature of the building, saving and restoring an old building, or selling it and having it demolished. And I think there was that was some of the discussions that were going on. But the owners really wanted to save the building, really wanted to repair it, and had been doing work inside the building. Had done prior work before I got involved. And I did walk through the entire building, and they had were working on redoing the flooring and other areas in the kitchen. They had plans to reopen the building eventually. But again, construction cost is expensive, so they were they were looking at the cost of selling it versus repair. But they needed to move forward, so that's why we were at least putting plans together to move forward and repair the building.
Is this a historical landmark registered? The Mississippi Land Trust indicating no.
Right, we have someone who can speak to that if you like.
Yes, you would please.
Mr. Gutierrez, is he still here? Jim Morris, do you need to be sworn in and state your name?
You're an attorney, not even sworn in.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, morning. I'm Jim Morris. I'm the Deputy City Manager. We had Doug Gutierrez here, who handles our historic measures, to testify to you. We can have him call back if you wish. His testimony is it's not on any register. It has no historical significance or designation in the city of Daytona Beach. Its historic significance is that it's old, and that's the extent of it.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Jim,
Yes, ma'am.
would it be cheaper for them to just let the building be torn down and put up a brand new one on the over long term?
Well, the testimony that you've received, I'm going to speak simply to that because I don't have the qualifications to give you estimates as to cost. But the demolition cost is roughly $40,000 total to remove it. I heard testimony this morning that the cost well exceeds $100,000 to bring it up to code standards. And I don't think that addressed the issues relating to plumbing and so on. And that you have, from the building official's testimony prior to this, $80,000 expenditure to date that we have on record. There was reference in the testimony to 50%. The standard for code compliance, complete code compliance, is when you exceed 50% of the property appraised value, then you have to come into complete code compliance with every aspect of the building codes. The current appraised value on the property records for Volusia County for this property is $120,000. So there's the numbers to compare and let you consider in respect to those things.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
What other questions for anybody at all?
Any other questions for people on the board?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to read again that the board has the authority to either, this is section 1116, board decision. The board shall modify or reverse a decision of code official only by a concurring vote of the majority of the total number of appointed board members. So you have the ability to deny the appeal, you have the ability to modify, and you have the ability to reverse. But it must be by majority vote.
Board? What's your wishes?
I believe that, in my opinion, and the testimony given from the structural engineer, and reading the documents that are before me and the proposal, I think that there was a little slowness on the owner to do any repairs at all. My main concern is the safety. Whether it's completely secure, with fencing, no trespassing, somebody, even though that it's posted, I'm not sure of the law, whether somebody got in and somebody was hurt, vagrants or whatever. Children, they have a tendency to love to go to these places. With all that into consideration, I would make a recommendation that this be demolished.
And you deny the appeal?
And deny the appeal. Yes, sir.
Can you make a motion on that, Vern?
I'll make that as a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Board comments?
Any discussion?
Let's have any discussion. You have a question?
As well.
Pardon, I didn't understand.
Will you take public comment? If there's no more discussion?
Anybody from the public want to say something?
Anyone in the audience want to make a comment?
Again, James Stowers, thank you. Just one quick comment. I've reviewed the minutes from the appeal of notice of condemnation and demolition order, the minutes from January 15th and October 16th. Similarly situated properties that were noticed, I will reference BP 2018-0038-299 Morningside Avenue. That property was posted on July 19th, 2018, and the appeal made its way to the board about 6 months later, January 15th. And then also for the record, October 2019, BP 2017-0040, notice of demolition sent to the property owner February 2018. And again, you're talking 8 months that it made its way to the board. And these are demolition, notice of demolition and condemnation orders by the city. And so I just wanted to put that in the record in terms of the background on these items versus removing a permit application from the system on a Wednesday and ordering a demolition permit on a Thursday and starting demolition on a Friday. Thank you.
What do I do now?
Anybody in the audience?
Anyone in the audience want to make a comment?
Yes, ma'am. The two cases referenced were not imminent danger cases, first and foremost. Secondarily, the permit was not killed by the city, it was killed by the administrative process that allows 180 days for a response. The delay that you've heard is directly and solely attributable to the action or inaction of the property owners that appear before you today. You have an action where shoring was placed when they have the experience and the interest of a structural engineer that could have at least guided them, permit or not, to do the work that was required. And Mr. Brown, you asked a question about aren't you supposed to have a permit? The demand from the manager was to shore it up. That wasn't to ignore the law and shore it up, but rather to do what you should do, which is get the permit and then do the work. This entire process, which you've got dates back to the 15th, 2015, has been one of delay. And the stated purpose for the delay today is to permit consummation of a sale, or maybe fix the building. There's no offer to bond the money that would be necessary to do the work that they cost about as they ask for the delay. It is simply to delay, continue the delay, which is something that everybody here knows that building has been in a state of disrepair long before the acquisition of the current owners. And in respect to their failure to get processed, that was an extended process, extended by their own efforts. When they finally did what they should do and pay the utility bill that they owed, room was left for them to appeal that charge. They've not appealed it yet. And I set no deadline on it in the correspondence that gave them that deadline. This is just another effort to continue to delay something that should not be delayed any longer. The testimony that you have is that it's bad all the way down to the ground. And if you ever worked with Heart of Pine, and I know Mr. Lundquist has and other people have, I have too. You don't necessarily reuse heart of pine because it literally is petrified like stone. It's as hard as a rock. If you were to use it, you drill it and tap it is about the only way that you can reuse it. This issue should be resolved. Respective to the notice that was given to these folks, they've had a proper hearing today. They had due process in terms of the opportunity to prepare and to get ready. From the standpoint of the structural report given by the city, if you want to know the city's records, you request the records that are in the file. If you want to have a contesting opinion, you prepare a contesting report to come before you that we would likewise review. When you look behind the various things that are said today, which relate to more sympathetic arguments than practical or legal arguments, it's clear that the motion before you is appropriate and the building should be ordered to be demolished as soon as practicable, which it would have already been done, but for the fact of the appeal, which was why it wasn't shored. It was going to be demolished following the removal of hazardous material in the form of asbestos. It was on the property, which, as Mr. Hiller testified, was probably a good thing from the standpoint of if you were going to repair it, it needed to be out of the way and properly disposed of anyhow. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other comments?
Call for a roll call.
A roll call vote. Now, if you vote yes, that will say to take it down.
Yeah, that would be to support the city's position and deny the appeal.
Okay, as long as everyone understands that. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Culver?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Weatherholt?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Next case.
It carries. Case A. Where are we on?
Right.
Page 2? 1 3.
How to request a recess?
He wants a 5-minute recess. 5-minute recess?
I'd like one.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's have a few minute recess here. Back to order, please. The next case.
Your next case is 6A. It's a review case. It's case BP 2017-0001, 408 Dr. Mary M. Bethune Boulevard. This is an appeal of a notice of condemnation and demolition order. We've spoken with the property owner. We have a new property owner, and the city and the property owner have reached some accommodation and agreement for you to consider. If you'll recall, this property is actually a case that was continued from your last meeting. And so we'll give you the background when they come up and explain all that to you. But I believe we got the case resolved for your approval. So Mr. Urquhart, could you come up, and the property owner as well? I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't know your name off.
Glenn Urquhart, Chief Building Official.
Hi, good morning. How are you? My name is Elia, and I belong to Marvin Constructions, LLC, the owner of that property.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence, the testimony gives the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it's true, I do.
And I think it'd be appropriate at this point for the owner just to explain the work they're doing on the property and the anticipated work, and then when she's done with that, we'll have Mr. Urquhart explain the details of the agreement with the party.
So, I'm sorry. So right now we are doing the cleaning of the property because the roof was collapsed. So all the property has a lot of garbage around. So we hire a demolition company to do the cleaning. So right now I think that we are in a 70 or 65% done. So we haven't touched any structural built wall or any structural part of the ceiling because I know that we have to pull a permit first. So when I had the option to talk to them in the city, they allow me just only to do the cleaning. And right now, that is the process that I'm doing. So I think that it's going to take me 1 more week to finish everything in the property. And after that, I will be here having a permit to fix 1 wall that I have to do it in the left side of the property. That one.
When were these photos taken, just so we know?
12/28/18.
Very good.
So I have pictures, but in my phone, that the property is almost clean in the 65 or 70%.
So you removed all this debris that's shown in these?
Yes,
photos?
nothing, now it is not like that. I have taken like 12 trucks with all that garbage, and I have spent almost $14,000 doing that cleaning. So I don't know if you can see the picture because I have it in my phone with all the heavy.
It's difficult.
So you have pictures of those? No.
I don't have them here, but I was at the site yesterday afternoon.
John showed me the pictures, and I can attest that they did remove all the debris from the roofs. And the last thing left that we were asking her to do would be not removal, but shoring up on the southwest corner, right there. We just want that to be actually locked into the wall system. Then at that point, they can move on with their permitted plans of what they're going to do with it. But to get as far as for the safeguards for the public, they've already taken all the debris from the roof away, and they're going to shore that up within a week. And then after that, I think we would be good with them as far as moving forward.
And so what do we anticipate happening in the next 30 days?
In the next 30 days, she'll finish up the debris removal and the shoring up that southwest corner.
In terms of permitting, what will be the next step?
And also having the permit to build a roof.
And then she'll submit for the permit for the roof.
Because our commitment is to fix the property as soon as possible, because it's our first investment as a company, and my partner and I want to have the property working and give us money back.
So to be the cities, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm going to say, do you want us to continue it for 30 days, just so if it's not done, it's on our next agenda?
Yes, that's exactly
Okay.
what I was about to propose.
Go ahead,
Could I ask just one question? On the, you're talking about shoring up that corner, where it's separated. Have you received, or are they going to submit a structural engineer, on the drawings and the structural integrity of the existing walls?
Yes, so the structural report will be inclusive in with the roofing permit. So they'll have to submit them at the same time. We told her we'd go over all the permits that she needed for it. The main objective in the beginning was to get, of course, all that roof debris out of the way because we're getting close to hurricane season, and also to shore up that corner so it wouldn't fall into the public way. But then after that, yes, 100% structural report as well as the roofing permit.
If we put this on our next agenda, just to make sure that everything gets done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we will.
All right.
Yeah.
That should be enough time
Yeah.
to get what you need?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need a
You need a
board
motion.
vote?
Motion to continue the case to
Will
next
you
month,
make a motion on that?
to the April meeting.
I'll make a motion to continue to the next meeting.
I'll second it.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You have it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Mm-hmm.
Our final case is 6B. It's case number BP 2018-040, 508 Gibson Street. It's an appeal of a notice of condemnation and demolition order. I believe, Kim, maybe you could report to the board on this issue, please.
The property owner has hired a contractor. They pulled a permit. They're in the process of demolition now. She is from Miami, so she has not to have to drive up today, but John inspected the property yesterday. It is in progress. She's doing it herself, so requests to be able to report to you in 30 days.
Has it been demolished yet, or it's...
They're in process.
Has
They
the
have
permit been
started.
pulled?
The permit is pulled.
Okay.
They did go through the permitting process. They have started demolition of the structure.
And
It's
for
just
the
not
record,
complete.
your name.
My name is Kim Flaherty, project manager.
So you want us to continue this for 30 days also, the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay. Want to make a motion on that, please?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. I guess that's it.
Want to put this.
That was a fast one.
So Kim, we're going to have these two come back next month, or are you going to go away, or? Okay. And do you have any more for us?
At this moment, not selected.
Okay, not selected yet, okay. That means yes.
Thank you.